red marker on his weak neck. I swung the hard metal bat with brutal, calculated force. Dark, thick blood splashed across the cold concrete floor. The infected monster fell down without making any noise. First kill confirmed, granting 10 basic survival points. I stepped over the dead body and walked down the stairs. 3 scared students were hiding behind a broken table. They cried and begged me to save their pathetic lives. My system displayed a 0% chance of their survival. I ignored their loud whining and walked toward the exit. A massive horde of hungry zombies broke through the glass. The greedy fools screamed as sharp teeth tore their flesh. I quietly slipped away through the dark, narrow back alley. My glowing interface highlighted a hidden supply crate. I kicked the rusty metal lid open with my heavy black boot. Loot acquired, sharp tactical axe, and 3 water bottles. I drank the cool fresh water while others died of thirst. The tactical axe felt perfectly balanced in my right hand. A loud, monstrous roar shook the dirty, abandoned street. The system warned me about a massive mutated beast nearby. I climbed the rusty iron fire escape to get a better view. A giant black wolf was fighting 50 rotting corpses. Its sharp silver claws ripped through weak zombie flesh. The interface showed a rare taming chance for this beast. I needed to wait for the exact perfect moment to strike. The tired wolf finally collapsed on the wet, bloody asphalt. I jumped down and crushed a zombie skull with my heavy axe. Black, foul blood painted my dark green tactical jacket. I stood between the injured wolf and the remaining horde. The system showed a clear route through their broken lines. I moved like a swift shadow, dodging their clumsy attacks. My sharp axe severed 5 rotting heads in one fluid spin. The last dead monster dropped heavily onto the wet ground. I tossed a rare healing potion to the bleeding black beast. The giant wolf drank the blue liquid and slowly stood up. Taming successful, granting S-rank mutant wolf shadow pet. My loyal pet shadow let out a deep, terrifying, feral growl. We walked together into the dark ruins of the dead city. A group of armed survivors blocked our narrow, dusty road. Their fat, greedy leader demanded all my food and weapons. I simply smiled at this very arrogant and completely stupid pig. My interface showed his combat power was basically 0. I snapped my fingers and my giant wolf lunged forward. Sharp teeth crushed the fat man holding the rusty rifle. The remaining cowards dropped their cheap iron weapons. They fell to their dirty knees, begging for quick mercy. I took their heavy supply bags without saying a single word. My huge personal inventory swallowed all their stolen food. I left them tied up as fresh bait for the next zombie wave. The system guided me toward a massive, abandoned military base. Thick steel doors blocked the main entrance to the bunker. I pressed the hidden green button shown by my interface. The heavy metal gates slowly opened with a loud grinding noise. Rows of shiny armored vehicles sat in the dark, dusty garage. New location discovered, granting massive experience bonus. I climbed inside a huge, heavy tank covered in thick armor. The powerful diesel engine roared to life under my hands. I drove the massive machine straight through the concrete wall. Hundreds of weak zombies were crushed beneath heavy iron tracks. My level kept rising rapidly with every single bloody kill. A giant mutated lizard suddenly blocked the wide, ruined street. Thick green scales covered its massive, muscular, ugly body. Its long, heavy tail smashed a broken yellow taxi into pieces. The system marked this elite boss with a glowing red skull. I drove a heavy truck full of explosives toward the beast. I jumped out of the moving vehicle at the exact last second. A massive, fiery explosion consumed the entire city block. Hot orange flames burned the thick green skin of the monster. The furious lizard roared and charged through the thick smoke. My interface highlighted a small, weak spot on its long spine. I pulled a toxic smoke grenade from my dark tactical belt. Thick, purple gas instantly blinded the giant, angry creature. I used the hood of a crushed car to launch myself upward. My rapid jump took me right above the thrashing, ugly beast. Its deadly, spiked tongue missed my boot by a single inch. I landed heavily on the slippery green back of the monster. I drove my sharp hunting knife deep into the glowing weak spot. Dark yellow blood sprayed across my dirty tactical visor. I twisted the cold steel blade with brutal, calculated force. The massive elite boss finally collapsed onto the broken road. Boss defeated, granting rare item mutant lizard bone armor. I calmly wiped my bloody knife on the dead monster skin. My giant wolf ran over and started eating the fresh meat. I checked my floating system panel for the next best target. A bright green line pointed toward a hidden underground base. The weak survivors in this city were still crying for help. I simply ignored their loud screams and walked into the dark. My massive personal stash was already full of premium food. I ate a hot, delicious steak while others fought for rats. This brutal, apocalyptic world was just a fun, simple game. My perfect choices always kept me 10 steps ahead of everyone. A new system alert flashed with a bright, flashing red border. Warning showing a massive horde of mutated variants nearby. I loaded my heavy shotgun with special explosive shell rounds. The loud metallic click echoed through the empty, dark street. My giant shadow wolf stood beside me, ready for the slaughter. I watched the rotting army march toward my personal fortress. Every single dead body just meant more free system points. I slowly raised my dark, heavy weapon, aiming at the front line. My glowing interface calculated the perfect angle for damage. I pulled the cold metal trigger without any hesitation. A bright, fiery blast tore through 30 rotting, ugly bodies. Burning chunks of dead flesh rained down on the wet concrete. I pumped the hot shotgun and fired another devastating round. The arrogant zombie lord tried to command his falling troops. My sharp interface showed his exact location behind a ruined bus. I threw a heavy fragmentation grenade right at his ugly feet. The loud explosion turned the arrogant monster into red mist. Target eliminated, granting the rare skill book Shadow Step. I absorbed Shadow Step into my growing magical system core. My physical speed instantly increased to a terrifying level. I dashed through the remaining horde like a swift, deadly ghost. My sharp tactical axe easily severed their weak, rotting limbs. Black, corrupted blood formed heavy puddles on the broken road. The foolish survivors watched me with wide, fearful, open eyes. They thought I was some kind of noble hero coming to save them. I simply collected my rare loot and turned my back on them. A young crying girl begged me to share my fresh, clean water. My interface showed she carried a hidden deadly zombie virus. I kicked her weak hands away from my expensive leather boots. The other survivors cursed my name with deep, bitter, wild anger. I just laughed and let my giant wolf growl at their weak faces. They backed away in pure terror, dropping their cheap weapons. My massive inventory absorbed their abandoned survival gear. I walked into the dark, abandoned subway station feeling great. The cold, damp air smelled like old rust and rotting dead meat. A green system arrow pointed toward a hidden maintenance room. I smashed the rusty iron padlock with my heavy, bloody axe. Inside the dark room sat a pristine military weapon crate. Loot acquired, heavy sniper rifle and rare explosive ammo. I gently touched the cold, dark steel of my new powerful gun. This perfect weapon would easily pierce any thick mutant armor. I climbed the dusty concrete stairs to the high, ruined roof. The dark, broken city stretched out beneath my cold, heavy boots. My glowing interface highlighted 3 rival survivor camps. The closest group was busy hoarding stolen medical supplies. I aimed my heavy sniper rifle at their fat, arrogant leader. The system showed a perfect wind calculation for the kill shot. I slowly pulled the cold metal trigger with perfect precision. The loud crack echoed across the silent, ruined gray buildings. The fat leader lost his ugly head in a bright red, bloody mist. His weak, pathetic guards scattered like scared little gray rats. I quickly shot 3 more fools trying to grab the rare loot. Multi-kill bonus unlocked, granting 50 survival points. I used my Shadow Step skill to teleport down to the street. My giant wolf was already tearing apart the remaining guards. I calmly walked past the torn, bloody bodies without looking. My huge inventory swallowed all their precious medical boxes. I found a rare healing serum hidden inside a small metal safe. This greedy dead fool had planned to sell it for high prices. His expensive shiny treasure belonged entirely to my rich stash. I drank a cold energy drink while watching the city burn down. A massive armored transport vehicle drove down the main road. A wealthy billionaire sat inside, barking angry, loud commands. He thought his old dirty money still held power in this hell. My interface showed his heavy armor had a fatal design flaw. The rear exhaust pipe was completely exposed to any attack. I loaded an explosive armor-piercing round into my sniper. The heavy bullet flew straight into the weak metal opening. A massive, fiery blast flipped the expensive armored vehicle. The rich, arrogant fool crawled out with his clothes on fire. He screamed and offered me $10 million for his life. I simply crushed his burning skull with my heavy black boot. Elite enemy eliminated, granting the rare item, Spatial Ring. I slipped the spatial ring onto my right index finger. My storage capacity instantly expanded to a massive, huge size. I walked into a large, abandoned supermarket filled with food. A group of weak survivors was fighting over a single bread. I ignored their pathetic little war and walked to the back. My system highlighted a hidden locked door behind the shelves. I kicked the cheap wooden door open with one powerful strike. A massive secret warehouse was filled with premium canned meat. The greedy store owner was hiding inside with a loaded pistol. He tried to shoot me, but my giant wolf bit his right arm off. The fat man fell to the cold floor, screaming in pure agony. I calmly transferred every single food crate into my new ring. The bleeding owner watched his entire life savings disappear. I left him alone to bleed out in the dark, empty, cold storage. The other survivors finally broke into the back warehouse room. They saw the empty, dusty shelves and started crying loudly. I walked past their sobbing faces, eating a fresh chocolate bar. A sudden loud siren echoed through the broken, ruined streets. The system warned me about a deadly, toxic rain approaching. I needed to find a secure underground bunker very quickly. My glowing interface calculated the fastest, safe route ahead. I jumped onto a heavy, abandoned motorcycle and started it up. The loud engine roared as I drove through the broken glass. Green, glowing acid rain began to fall from the dark gray sky. Weak fools on the street melted into horrible, screaming puddles. I drove my fast bike right into a deep, dark subway tunnel. The thick concrete ceiling protected me from the deadly drops. A large group of heavily armed bandits blocked the dark tracks. They aimed rusty rifles at my expensive black leather jacket. Their ugly leader demanded my fast bike and all my shiny gear. My interface highlighted an explosive gas pipe right above them. I quickly pulled out my heavy shotgun and aimed at the ceiling. The arrogant bandit laughed, thinking I had missed my target. The hot, explosive shell shattered the thick, rusty iron pipe. A massive wall of bright orange fire instantly roasted them all. The smell of burnt human flesh filled the dark, damp tunnel. Threat neutralized, granting the new title, Ruthless Survivor. I drove my heavy bike over their black, crispy, dead bodies. Deep inside the dark tunnel, I found a heavy steel vault door. The system panel showed a complex digital lock on the wall. My omniscient cheat instantly revealed the correct access code. I slowly punched the green numbers into the dusty keypad. The massive, heavy steel door swung open with a loud, heavy thud. Inside was a luxury bunker built for rich, corrupt politicians. Soft white leather couches sat on clean, expensive red carpets. A huge, smart fridge was fully stocked with cold, vintage wine. I sat on the soft couch and poured myself a tall crystal glass. My giant wolf happily chewed on a large, frozen premium steak. The system cameras showed the miserable fools dying outside. I drank my cold, sweet wine while they melted in the toxic rain. This personal luxury fortress became my new permanent safe base. I opened my glowing window to check my current high level. Level increased to 20, doubling all basic physical stats. My cold muscles bulged with pure, raw, unstoppable dark power. A loud banging noise suddenly echoed from the heavy steel door. A group of desperate rich people was begging to come inside. The fat mayor of the city screamed about his high social status. He promised me endless wealth if I just opened the heavy lock. I simply turned off the external speaker and closed my eyes. Their pathetic loud cries were completely useless in this hell. The acid rain slowly dissolved their expensive designer clothes. I slept peacefully on my soft bed surrounded by pure luxury. The next morning brought a clear blue sky over the dead city. I checked the front door cameras to see a pile of melted bones. My system interface pinged with a massive new daily mission. A rare supply drop was falling toward the ruined Central Park. Every surviving gang would fight for this heavy red crate. I loaded my heavy weapons and stepped out of my safe bunker. The fresh morning air smelled like burnt plastic and old blood. My giant shadow wolf sniffed the wind and let out a low growl. We marched toward the Central Park, ready for a brutal massacre. Hundreds of dirty armed thugs were already shooting each other. They fought like wild, starving dogs over a simple piece of meat. My interface showed the exact trajectory of every flying bullet. I casually walked through the chaotic crossfire without harm. A stupid sniper tried to shoot me from a high broken window. I didn't even look up as I fired my heavy explosive shotgun. The entire top floor of the old building collapsed into dust. The heavy red supply crate sat untouched in the green grass. A massive gang leader covered in thick steel armor blocked me. He swung a giant rusty hammer aimed straight at my fragile head. I simply used my shadow step to appear directly behind his back. My sharp tactical axe smoothly severed his thick, ugly neck. The heavy armored body fell forward with a loud metallic crash. Boss defeated, granting access to the premium supply crate. I opened the heavy red lid and found a glowing blue energy core. This rare item would upgrade my safe bunker to a real fortress. The remaining thugs realized they were facing a brutal demon. They dropped their cheap weapons and ran away in pure dark panic. I let my giant wolf hunt them down for extra free experience. The system showered me with endless golden notification screens. I stood alone in the bloody park, feeling completely untouchable. Block 2. I picked up the glowing blue core with my cold, bloody hands. The heavy red crate vanished into my massive personal storage. My giant shadow wolf returned with fresh meat in his jaws. We walked back through the dark, ruined streets in total silence. Weak survivors watched me from their dirty, broken glass windows. They wanted to steal my rare loot, but feared my brutal power. I reached the heavy steel door of my hidden underground base. My bloody fingers quickly typed the secret code on the keypad. The thick metal vault opened with a loud, satisfying, heavy thud. I walked inside and placed the blue core on the main terminal. Base upgrade initiated, granting advanced automated defenses. Thick steel turrets dropped from the cold gray concrete ceiling. My personal luxury fortress became a completely deadly death trap. I sat on the soft white couch and drank a cold energy drink. The system interface flashed with a bright yellow warning sign. A massive horde of mutated spiders was moving toward my sector. These ugly green monsters love to eat fresh, warm human flesh. I checked my floating screen to find their main breeding nest. A bright red arrow pointed toward the old ruined city hospital. I loaded my heavy sniper rifle with toxic armor-piercing rounds. My giant black wolf stretched his strong legs and growled low. We left the safe bunker to hunt these disgusting, crawling bugs. The dark, dirty streets were filled with thick, sticky white webs. Foolish survivors were trapped inside these strong, silken cocoons. They cried out, begging me to cut their thick, sticky restraints. My interface showed a 0% chance of their recovery. I sat on a crushed yellow taxi and watched them slowly die out. The giant spiders tore through their cheap, weak iron barricades. The fat leader saw me resting and demanded my immediate help. He promised to give me half of the medical supplies inside. I just laughed at his stupid face and drank cold bottled water. His loud, angry curses attracted 5 more giant, ugly monsters. Sharp, hairy spider legs impaled his fat body against the van. The arrogant fool died screaming in a pool of dark red blood. I stood up and pulled out my heavy, dark tactical shotgun. My glowing interface showed the perfect angle for massive damage. I fired a hot explosive shell straight into the crawling horde. Bright orange fire instantly burned their thick, sticky white webs. The disgusting green bugs shrieked as their hairy bodies melted. I pumped the cold, heavy weapon and fired another deadly round. My giant wolf dashed forward, tearing apart the burning monsters. We walked through the bloody hospital lobby without any fear. The system guided me toward the dark, flooded basement level. Cold, dirty water splashed against my heavy black leather boots. A giant, mutated spider queen hung from the dark, wet ceiling. Her massive, bloated stomach pulsed with glowing, toxic green acid. The interface marked her soft underbelly as the critical target. She spat a huge ball of burning green acid right at my face. I used my shadow step skill to dodge the deadly flying liquid. The toxic acid melted the thick concrete wall behind my back. I pulled a sharp throwing knife from my dark tactical belt. My cold fingers wrapped around the smooth steel of the handle. I threw the cold blade straight into her ugly, glowing red eyes. The massive spider queen screamed and dropped to the wet floor. I rushed forward, holding my heavy, bloody axe with both hands. My powerful strike easily cleaved through her soft, glowing belly. Thick green slime erupted over the dirty, flooded basement floor. Elite Boss defeated, granting the rare item, Toxic Venom Gland. I carefully placed the dangerous item into my huge spatial ring. Behind the dead queen sat a pristine white medical supply crate. I smashed the rusty iron lock with the back of my heavy axe. Loot acquired, advanced healing serums, and pure energy pills. These rare medical items would sell for a massive fortune later. I simply tossed them all into my endless magical storage ring. My giant shadow wolf happily ate the dead green spider queen. We left the ruined hospital and walked back into the dead city. A dark military helicopter flew over the broken gray buildings. The system showed it belonged to a highly corrupt armed faction. They were dropping heavy steel cages full of angry, fast zombies. These rich cowards wanted to clear the streets for their troops. I watched a cage crash onto a small group of crying survivors. The fast, infected monsters tore their weak flesh into tiny rags. I leaned against a rusty car and watched the brutal, bloody show. My interface showed a perfect shot at the dark, loud helicopter. I pulled out my heavy sniper rifle and aimed at the rear rotor. The loud engine noise masked the click of my cold, heavy weapon. I slowly pulled the metal trigger with pure, calculated precision. The explosive, heavy bullet completely shattered the rear blade. The dark helicopter spun wildly out of control in the gray sky. It crashed into a glass tower with a massive, fiery explosion. Burning metal debris rained down on the dirty, broken street. Threat neutralized, granting a massive bonus of survival points. I drank a cold, sweet soda while watching the tall building burn. 5 surviving soldiers crawled out of the hot, flaming wreckage. Their expensive combat armor was completely melted and ruined. They pointed their broken assault rifles at my dark, calm face. Their angry commander demanded I hand over all my medical gear. I simply smiled and let my giant shadow wolf step forward. The arrogant soldiers dropped their guns and begged for mercy. My interface showed they had killed hundreds of innocent people. I snapped my fingers, and my loyal beast tore their throats out. Red, warm blood quickly pooled on the cold, gray, cracked pavement. I looted their dead bodies for rare, heavy explosive ammunition. My huge personal stash absorbed their stolen military weapons. The system issued a new global alert with a bright red light. First blood moon rising, doubling the strength of all mutants. The pale gray sky slowly turned into a deep, terrifying crimson. Weak survivors screamed in pure terror, hiding in their holes. I calmly walked back toward my heavily fortified, safe bunker. The red moonlight cast long, dark shadows on the broken road. A massive horde of glowing red zombies blocked my narrow path. Their rotting muscles bulged with pure, unnatural dark power. My interface calculated a perfect route through the deadly crowd. I pulled out my heavy sharp axe and activated my movement skill. My body became a fast, blurry shadow darting between the beasts. Cold steel flashed in the red light, severing thick, ugly heads. Dark, corrupted blood sprayed across the dirty brick store walls. I moved with pure mechanical precision, never wasting a step. My giant wolf crushed the remaining red zombies with heavy paws. We finally reached the thick steel vault door of my safe base. The heavy automated turrets instantly scanned my calm face. The massive metal door opened to reveal my warm luxury home. I locked the heavy vault and took a long, hot, relaxing shower. The hot, clean water washed away the dark, sticky mutant blood. I wore soft silk clothes and cooked a massive fresh beef steak. The outside world was a brutal, bloody nightmare of pure pain. My secure underground bunker felt like a peaceful luxury hotel. I drank expensive red wine and checked my floating system logs. Level increased to 25, unlocking the new crafting menu. I opened the glowing digital menu to see the available plans. The interface showed a blueprint for a heavy plasma sniper rifle. I needed rare titanium scraps and a high-tier mutant core. My massive spatial ring already contained all the required parts. I placed the cold, heavy materials onto the metal crafting table. A bright blue light enveloped the scraps and the glowing core. Crafting successful, granting the rare item Plasma Sniper Rifle. The sleek black weapon hummed with pure concentrated dark power. I gently stroked the cold metal barrel of my new deadly toy. This beautiful gun would easily melt through any mutant armor. I slept peacefully on my soft bed while the bloody moon shone. The next morning, I checked the external cameras of my safe base. A large group of desperate survivors hit my heavy steel door. Their arrogant leader demanded I share my massive food supplies. He claimed it was my moral duty to save their pathetic lives. I pressed a small red button on my glowing digital base console. The hidden ceiling turrets quickly aimed at their dirty faces. A loud mechanical voice warned them to leave the private area. The greedy fools ignored the warning and hit the heavy lock. I simply smiled and authorized the lethal defense protocol. Heavy machine gun fire tore through their weak, fragile bodies. Red blood and torn flesh painted the gray concrete walls. The arrogant leader crawled away, leaving a long, bloody trail. My giant shadow wolf rushed out and happily finished the job. Intruders eliminated, granting 50 bonus survival points. I drank a hot cup of black coffee and watched the bloody mess. My glowing interface suddenly pinged with a massive new quest. A hidden military laboratory was located just 5 miles away. The system showed it contained a rare permanent stat booster. I put on my dark tactical gear and loaded my new plasma rifle. My loyal wolf growled with pure excitement for the coming hunt. We left the safe bunker and walked into the bright morning sun. The ruined city streets were filled with burnt mutant corpses. A massive armored convoy blocked the road to the laboratory. Armed mercenaries stood around a large, broken heavy metal tank. Their rich boss yelled at a weak mechanic to fix the engine. My interface showed these fools belonged to a very cruel gang. They tortured innocent survivors for simple, sick entertainment. I aimed my new plasma sniper rifle at the loud, angry boss. The system calculated a perfect trajectory for a clean headshot. I slowly pulled the cold trigger and fired a bright blue laser. The hot plasma beam instantly melted the arrogant leader's head. His headless body collapsed onto the dirty, cracked asphalt road. The panicked mercenaries wildly fired their cheap guns blindly. I used my shadow step to teleport right into their middle. My sharp tactical axe spun like a deadly silver bloody tornado. I severed arms and legs with pure cold mechanical efficiency. Thick red blood sprayed across the heavy rusted tank armor. The last mercenary dropped his gun and fell to his dirty knees. He cried and offered me a map to a hidden secret supply cache. My interface showed the map was a deadly trap full of bombs. I kicked his ugly face and crushed his weak, fragile skull. Threat eliminated, granting the rare item Advanced Tank Key. I picked up the heavy silver key and climbed into the tank. My interface highlighted the exact broken wire in the engine. I quickly reconnected the thick cable with my cold, bloody hands. The massive diesel engine roared to life with a loud rumble. I drove the heavy armored beast straight toward the secret lab. Weak zombies were easily crushed beneath my heavy iron tracks. The thick steel walls of the hidden lab appeared very close. A giant mutated bear guarded the heavy reinforced main entrance. Thick bony armor plates covered its massive ugly brown body. The system marked this monster with a glowing purple skull. I aimed the main tank cannon directly at the giant angry beast. The loud explosive blast shook the entire broken city block. A massive heavy shell slammed into the thick chest of the bear. The brutal explosion shattered its strong bony protective armor. The furious beast roared and charged at my heavy armored tank. I calmly loaded another explosive round into the hot barrel. I fired again and completely blew off the head of the monster. Elite Boss defeated, granting the rare item Mutated Bear Heart. I climbed out of the heavy tank and collected my precious loot. My giant shadow wolf happily ate the remaining bloody meat. I walked up to the heavy steel doors of the dark military lab. The digital lock required a complex, high-level security code. My omniscient skill instantly revealed the correct numbers. I typed the code and the heavy metal doors slowly slid open. The dark, cold hallway smelled like chemicals and dead bodies. Flickering red lights illuminated the dirty white walls. My glowing interface pointed toward the main underground vault. Mutated scientists wandered aimlessly in the dark corridor. Their white lab coats were stained with dark old dried blood. I pulled out my sharp axe and charged into the weak horde. My fast, brutal swings easily separated their ugly, rotting heads. Black, corrupted blood splashed onto the clean, white-tiled floor. I cleared the entire hallway without breaking a single sweat. We reached the heavy glass doors of the main central lab. A massive glass tube sat in the middle of the large, cold room. Inside the tube floated a glowing, golden permanent stat pill. A greedy survivor was already trying to smash the thick glass. He swung a rusty iron pipe with his weak, tired, shaking hands. I walked up behind him and tapped his dirty, thin shoulder. He turned around and tried to hit my face with his cheap pipe. I easily caught the rusty iron pipe with my bare left hand. My interface showed his combat power was completely miserable. I squeezed the metal pipe and bent it into a useless shape. The fool fell to his knees, crying and begging for his sad life. I ignored his loud whining and kicked him into the cold wall. His fragile bones cracked loudly against the hard concrete. I pulled out my heavy shotgun and aimed at the thick glass. The explosive shell easily shattered the strong, thick barrier. I grabbed the glowing golden pill with my cold, bloody fingers. Item acquired, Golden Evolution Pill, granting massive stats. I immediately swallowed the rare pill without any hesitation. A surge of pure, burning energy rushed through my cold veins. My muscles expanded with terrifying, raw, unstoppable power. Strength and agility permanently increased by 50 points. I felt like a brutal god walking among these weak insects. The bleeding survivor watched my transformation with wide eyes. He offered to become my loyal slave if I just spared his life. My system showed he would betray me at the first opportunity. I simply stepped on his weak neck and crushed his windpipe. The dark laboratory suddenly shook with a massive earthquake. A giant mutated worm burst through the thick concrete floor. Rows of sharp, bloody teeth filled its massive, ugly, round mouth. The system warned me about this hidden underground elite boss. I smiled and pulled out my new heavy glowing plasma rifle. The giant worm lunged at me with pure, terrifying fast speed. I used my shadow step to easily dodge its massive attack. The ugly beast smashed headfirst into the thick steel wall. My interface highlighted a soft pink spot inside its mouth. I aimed my weapon and fired a bright hot blue plasma beam. The concentrated energy easily pierced the weak, soft flesh. The giant worm screeched in pure agony and collapsed dead. Elite Boss defeated, granting the rare item Subterranean Radar. I attached the small radar device to my glowing interface. This rare radar showed every hidden monster beneath the ground. My giant wolf happily chewed on the roasted flesh of the worm. We walked out of the ruined lab feeling completely unstoppable. The apocalypse was supposed to be a brutal nightmare for all. For me, it was just a simple playground full of rich, free loot. I climbed back into my heavy armored tank and started it up. The system pointed toward a massive military base far away. I drove the heavy beast forward, crushing everything in my path. The long, broken highway was filled with abandoned, rusty cars. I simply drove my heavy tank over their crushed metal roofs. Crazy religious fanatics blocked the wide, broken highway road. They wore dirty white robes stained with dark old dried blood. Their crazy leader held a rusty cross made of welded iron. He screamed that my heavy tank was a dark demon from hell. He demanded I step out and accept his holy cleansing ritual. My interface showed they sacrificed weak survivors for fun. I did not even slow down my massive, heavy armored beast. The heavy steel tracks easily crushed the screaming leader. His dirty white robe turned instantly into a bloody red puddle. The remaining fanatics threw weak bombs at my thick hull. The cheap explosions barely scratched my dark, heavy paint. I fired the loud, heavy machine gun mounted on the top turret. A storm of hot, heavy lead tore through their fragile bodies. Red blood sprayed across the dirty, broken asphalt highway. Cult destroyed, granting a massive amount of survival points. I kept driving until the huge, dark mountains appeared ahead. The secret military base was hidden deep inside the rock. Thick steel blast doors protected the main dark entrance. A heavily armed mercenary army had set up a camp outside. They were trying to drill through the massive steel vault. Their fat, greedy commander sat in a comfortable folding chair. He drank cold beer while his tired slaves worked the drill. My interface highlighted a massive ammo dump near his tent. I stopped my heavy tank on a high hill overlooking their camp. I loaded a high explosive shell into the main tank cannon. The system calculated the perfect angle for total destruction. I pulled the heavy firing lever with a cold, satisfying smile. The massive tank shook violently as the heavy shell flew out. It hit the large ammo dump with a perfectly accurate strike. A gigantic fiery explosion completely wiped out the camp. Hot orange flames melted their cheap tents and weak weapons. The fat commander was instantly turned into black, dirty ash. Army eliminated, granting the rare title, Master of Destruction. I drove my heavy tank down the steep hill toward the doors. The massive explosion had cracked the outer locking system. I simply rammed my heavy armored beast into the broken gate. The thick metal doors groaned and finally collapsed inward. I drove into the dark, massive underground military facility. Rows of pristine combat vehicles sat in the huge, dusty garage. My glowing interface pointed toward a hidden experimental lab. I left the tank and walked through the dark concrete halls. My giant shadow wolf sniffed the stale air and growled softly. A group of mutated super soldiers guarded the heavy lab door. Thick black armor plates were fused directly into their skin. They held massive Gatling guns in their huge, rotting hands. The system marked them as dangerous, high-level elite enemies. I pulled out my glowing plasma rifle and took careful aim. I fired a hot blue beam straight through the first ugly head. The mutated soldier dropped his heavy gun and fell down dead. The others instantly turned and fired a storm of hot bullets. I used my shadow step to hide behind a thick concrete pillar. Heavy lead bullets chipped away at my solid gray hiding spot. I pulled a high explosive grenade from my dark tactical belt. I tossed the small metal sphere right at their heavy boots. The loud blast knocked the massive monsters off their feet. My giant wolf lunged forward and tore open their throats. Black, corrupted blood formed a huge puddle on the dirty floor. Elite guards defeated, granting access to the secret lab. I stepped over their broken bodies and opened the glass door. Inside the cold room stood a massive black mechanical suit. It was armed with heavy rockets and thick, sharp steel blades. The system interface glowed with a bright golden notification. Rare item found, granting the Titan-class mechanical armor. I placed my right hand on the cold, dark metal of the suit. The heavy armor opened up with a loud mechanical hiss. I stepped inside, and the thick steel plates locked around me. A glowing red digital display appeared right before my eyes. I felt completely invincible inside this walking fortress. Suddenly, the mountain base shook with a violent earthquake. A giant mutated rockworm burst through the thick ceiling. Its massive round mouth was filled with many sharp teeth. The system marked it as a deadly high-tier underground boss. I simply smiled and activated the heavy rocket launchers. 6 explosive missiles flew straight into the monster's mouth. The massive blast blew the giant worm into tiny, bloody pieces. Hot, dirty mutant blood rained down on my thick black armor. Boss defeated, granting the rare item Subterranean Core. I stored the glowing crystal inside my massive spatial ring. My giant shadow wolf looked at my heavy suit with respect. I walked out of the ruined base, crushing rocks with heavy feet. The apocalypse was just a simple game for a prepared survivor. I used the suit thrusters to fly back toward my safe base. The dark gray sky was filled with mutated flying bat monsters. They tried to attack my flying metal suit with sharp claws. I activated the heavy laser cannons mounted on my thick arms. Bright red beams sliced through their weak, ugly, leathery wings. The burning monsters fell from the sky like heavy, bloody rain. I landed heavily right in front of my hidden steel vault door. The automated turrets instantly recognized my new heavy armor. I stepped out of the suit and walked into my warm luxury home. My giant wolf happily curled up on a soft, expensive white rug. I cooked a massive fresh salmon and drank cold, sparkling water. The system interface suddenly flashed with a purple warning. A massive horde of smart mutants was gathering in the city. They were led by a mutated human with strong psychic powers. He called himself the new absolute king of this ruined world. My interface showed he was planning to attack my hidden base. I just laughed and prepared my heavy weapons for a massacre. I loaded my plasma sniper rifle with explosive energy cells. My giant shadow wolf howled loudly, sensing the coming war. I put on my dark tactical gear and stepped out of the vault. Thousands of ugly mutants surrounded my hidden safe bunker. Their arrogant psychic leader floated slowly in the cold air. He wore a clean white suit and smiled with pure, dirty pride. He demanded I surrender my base and become his loyal servant. I simply raised my middle finger at his stupid floating face. The arrogant king screamed and ordered his horde to attack. I pressed a small button on my glowing digital wrist device. Hidden explosive mines detonated all across the ruined street. A massive wall of bright fire consumed hundreds of monsters. Burning chunks of dead flesh rained down on the broken road. The psychic leader tried to crush my mind with invisible power. My high-level system blocked his weak, pathetic mental attack. He coughed up dark black blood and stared at me in pure shock. I aimed my heavy plasma sniper rifle straight at his head. The hot blue beam easily pierced his invisible energy shield. His arrogant head exploded into a fine mist of dark red rain. Psychic King defeated, granting the rare item Mental Core. The remaining mutants panicked and ran away like scared rats. My giant shadow wolf hunted them down for easy free points. I calmly collected the glowing mental core from the dirty road. This rare item would massively increase my psychic resistance. I walked back into my safe luxury bunker feeling very bored. This brutal apocalyptic game was becoming too easy for me. I needed a real challenge to test my heavy new metal armor. The system suddenly displayed a massive glowing red global map. A giant mutated kraken was destroying a large coastal base. The weak humans were crying and begging for a strong savior. I didn't care about their pathetic lives, but wanted the loot. I stepped into my massive black mechanical suit and locked it. The heavy thrusters ignited with a bright hot blue flame. I flew across the ruined gray sky toward the deep blue ocean. The coastal city was completely flooded with dirty, dark water. A massive, ugly kraken was crushing tall buildings with ease. Thick, sharp scales covered its huge, disgusting, slippery body. The system marked this beast as a terrifying disaster threat. Weak survivors fired cheap, rusty rifles at the giant monster. Their tiny bullets bounced off its thick armor like soft rain. I hovered high above the flooded city in my heavy black suit. My interface highlighted a critical weak spot on its head. I activated the heavy plasma sword mounted on my right arm. A bright blue blade of pure hot energy hissed in the cold air. I dived straight down toward the giant angry beast very fast. The kraken swung a massive heavy tentacle to crush my suit. I easily sliced through the thick slimy flesh with my blade. Dark blue blood erupted from the massive deep burning wound. The monster roared in pure agony, shaking the flooded city. I landed heavily on top of its huge, wet, slippery scaled head. I drove my hot plasma sword deep into the glowing weak spot. The giant beast thrashed wildly, destroying 3 buildings. I twisted the burning energy blade with pure brutal force. The massive elite boss finally collapsed into the dark water. Disaster threat eliminated, granting the rare Ocean King core. I pulled the glowing blue core from the dead monster's head. The surviving humans cheered loudly, thinking I was their hero. Their fat, greedy mayor sailed toward me on a small boat. He demanded I hand over the rare core to save his weak people. I simply aimed my heavy arm cannon at his cheap wooden boat. The arrogant fool fell to his knees, begging for quick mercy. I ignored his pathetic cries and flew back into the gray sky. My massive inventory was filled with endless, priceless loot. I returned to my safe underground bunker and left the suit. My giant shadow wolf greeted me with a happy, deep growl. I fed him a huge chunk of fresh, bloody kraken meat. The system interface pinged with another massive global update. Tutorial phase completed, unlocking the dimensional tower. A giant, glowing portal appeared in the middle of the dead city. Weak survivors stared at the bright blue light in pure fear. I simply smiled and packed my heavy weapons for the next hunt. This apocalyptic world was my personal playground of death. I walked toward the glowing portal with my giant, loyal wolf. The greedy fools tried to follow me, hoping for free protection. I turned around and fired a heavy warning shot into the ground. They backed away quickly, dropping their cheap, rusty weapons. I stepped into the bright blue light, leaving this city behind. The cold, dimensional space twisted and warped around my body. I appeared in a massive, dark arena filled with stone statues. The system announced the first brutal trial of the Dark Tower. Defeat the ancient stone guardians to prove your pure worth. The giant gray statues cracked open, revealing glowing red eyes. They held massive, heavy stone hammers in their thick hands. I pulled out my sharp tactical axe and activated my fast skill. My blurry shadow darted between their slow, clumsy attacks. I smashed their weak stone joints with pure, calculated force. Thick gray dust filled the dark, cold air of the massive arena. My giant wolf crushed the falling rocks with his strong jaws. I easily cleared the first floor without taking a single hit. Floor 1 cleared, granting a massive chest of golden coins. I kicked the heavy wooden chest open and collected my reward. This endless tower was going to make me the richest man alive. I walked up the dark spiral stairs toward the next challenge. The second floor was a massive, dense jungle full of toxic bugs. Giant green snakes hung from the thick brown tree branches. My omniscient interface highlighted every single hidden trap. I simply walked through the dangerous maze with my eyes closed. A massive king cobra tried to bite my face with long fangs. I caught its thick, scaly neck with my bare left hand easily. I squeezed hard and crushed its fragile spine into tiny pieces. Monster defeated, granting the rare item, toxic venom gland. I tossed the dead snake to my hungry giant shadow wolf pet. We reached the center of the dark jungle and found a temple. A group of arrogant tower climbers was fighting the boss. They wore expensive, shiny armor bought from the system shop. Their rich leader screamed orders while hiding behind a shield. The boss was a giant mutated gorilla with thick iron skin. It smashed their weak magical barriers with pure, raw strength. The arrogant leader saw me and demanded I act as their shield. He offered me a few cheap silver coins for my pathetic life. I just laughed and pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle. I aimed at the giant gorilla and fired a single hot blue beam. The pure concentrated plasma melted right through its iron head. The massive elite boss collapsed instantly with a loud thud. Jungle boss defeated, granting the rare item, Iron Ape Core. The rich leader stared at me with wide, terrified open eyes. He realized I had stolen his precious rare loot in 1 second. He ordered his remaining guards to attack me and take the core. I simply snapped my fingers and my giant wolf lunged forward. Sharp silver claws easily tore through their expensive armor. The arrogant leader dropped his shield and fell to his knees. He cried and offered me his entire guild vault for his life. My interface showed his vault was completely empty and useless. I kicked his ugly face and crushed his weak, fragile skull. I collected their dropped weapons and stored them in my ring. This endless tower was a massive gold mine for a smart player. I walked toward the glowing portal leading to the 3rd floor. My perfect choices always kept me 10 steps ahead of everyone. The system showered me with endless golden notification screens. The 3rd floor was a massive frozen wasteland of white snow. Freezing cold winds howled through the tall, sharp, icy peaks. Weak climbers were slowly freezing to death in the deep snow. I activated the thermal heating module in my tactical gear. Warm, comfortable air circulated around my strong, muscular body. My giant shadow wolf loved the cold and played in the snow. A pack of mutated ice wolves surrounded us in a tight circle. Their sharp fangs were made of pure, unbreakable, solid ice. The system marked them as dangerous pack-hunting monsters. I pulled out my heavy shotgun and loaded explosive fire shells. The alpha wolf lunged at my throat with blinding fast speed. I fired a hot explosive shell straight into its open mouth. Bright orange fire instantly melted its thick, frozen, ugly head. The remaining wolves whined and tried to run away in terror. My loyal pet Shadow chased them down and tore their throats. Pack eliminated, granting the rare title, Lord of the Ice. I walked through the deep snow toward a massive frozen castle. The giant heavy doors were made of pure, solid, magical ice. I simply smashed them open with my heavy, dark tactical axe. Inside the cold throne room sat a beautiful, arrogant ice queen. She wore a glittering crown made of sharp, frozen diamonds. She demanded I bow down and become her loyal, frozen slave. My interface showed her cold magic was useless against fire. I pulled out a heavy military flamethrower from my ring. The arrogant queen laughed, thinking my human weapon was weak. I pulled the trigger and unleashed a massive wave of hot fire. The intense heat instantly melted her beautiful frozen throne. She screamed in pure agony as her perfect ice body melted. Ice Queen defeated, granting the rare item Crown of Winter. I picked up the glittering crown and tossed it into my ring. This endless tower was just a fun, relaxing vacation for me. I walked toward the glowing portal leading to the 4th floor. My perfect system always guided me toward the best choice. I stepped into the bright light, ready for more bloody combat. No mutant or arrogant survivor could ever stop my dark rise. I was the only true apex predator in this ruined, dead world. Block try. I stepped out of the bright portal into a dark wasteland. Hot orange lava bubbled beneath my heavy black metal boots. The 4th floor was a massive burning volcanic hellscape. My glowing interface highlighted a hidden, safe, narrow path. Weak survivors were burning alive in the deep, boiling magma. They screamed and begged me to throw them a strong, cold rope. I simply ignored their loud cries and drank cold, sweet water. A massive fire demon blocked the narrow, dark stone bridge. Thick, black smoke poured from its ugly, open, burning mouth. The system marked this beast with a glowing red danger sign. I pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle with a cold smile. My giant black wolf growled at the massive burning monster. I aimed the dark, cold barrel straight at its glowing chest. The hot blue beam easily pierced the thick, dark, rocky armor. The giant fire demon exploded into a shower of hot red sparks. Target destroyed, granting the rare item, Flame Demon Core. I tossed the hot glowing stone into my magical spatial ring. We crossed the dark stone bridge without any more problems. A group of arrogant guild members waited on the other side. Their fat, rich leader wore expensive, shiny, red magical armor. He demanded I hand over the rare core for his own greedy use. My interface showed his combat power was completely pathetic. I pulled out my heavy tactical axe and dashed right forward. My fast, blurry shadow easily bypassed his weak, slow guards. I severed his thick, ugly neck with one brutal, calculated swing. Hot red blood sprayed across the dark, burning volcanic rocks. His headless, fat body dropped heavily into the boiling magma. The remaining cowards dropped their cheap weapons in terror. I let my giant wolf hunt them down for easy, free experience. Level increased to 30, unlocking the advanced store. I opened the glowing digital menu to check the new heavy gear. The system offered a massive heavy railgun for my mech suit. I bought the dark, cold weapon using my huge pile of gold coins. This endless tower was making me the strongest man alive. I walked toward the glowing portal leading to the 5th floor. The bright blue light swallowed my tall, dark, muscular body. I appeared inside a massive, cold, abandoned mechanical city. Tall, gray steel buildings stretched into the dark, black sky. My glowing interface warned me about hidden laser tripwires. Weak fools were sliced into bloody pieces by invisible beams. I carefully stepped over their torn, bloody, dead human bodies. Giant silver robots patrolled the dark, empty, metallic streets. Their glowing red eyes scanned the cold shadows for intruders. I pulled a small EMP grenade from my dark, heavy tactical belt. I threw the cold metal sphere right at their heavy steel feet. A bright blue electrical pulse disabled their complex systems. The heavy silver machines collapsed with a loud metallic crash. I smashed their weak metal heads with my heavy bloody axe. Robots destroyed, granting 20 advanced survival points. I collected their rare energy cores for my heavy mech suit. The system guided me toward the main central control tower. A massive steel gate blocked the dark entrance to the building. An arrogant cyborg commander guarded the heavy locked doors. Half of his ugly face was covered in shiny, cold silver metal. He laughed and aimed a heavy rotary cannon at my calm face. My interface highlighted a fatal exposed wire on his right arm. I fired my heavy plasma sniper rifle with perfect cold precision. The hot blue beam melted the thick wire and disabled his gun. The arrogant cyborg stared at his broken weapon in pure shock. I used my movement skill to teleport directly behind his back. My sharp tactical axe easily cut through his weak metal spine. Dark black oil and red blood spilled onto the cold steel floor. Elite Boss defeated, granting the rare item Hacker Module. I plugged the small digital device into my glowing interface. The heavy steel gate slowly opened with a loud grinding noise. I walked into the dark central server room of the dead city. A giant, glowing blue artificial brain floated in a glass tank. The system warned me about a massive self-destruction sequence. I quickly typed the hidden override code on the main terminal. The loud red warning sirens instantly stopped their angry noise. I smashed the thick glass tank with my heavy dark metal boot. Mainframe captured, granting the rare title Machine Lord. I absorbed the glowing blue data core into my spatial ring. The entire mechanical city powered down into total dark silence. I found a massive golden chest hidden behind the broken server. I kicked the heavy lid open and smiled at the precious loot. Loot acquired, advanced base shield, and 10 gold bars. This rare shield would make my underground bunker invincible. The system announced the end of the current tower tutorial. A bright, glowing green portal appeared in the dark, cold room. I stepped through the magic door to return to the real world. My giant shadow wolf followed me with a happy, low, deep growl. We appeared back in the ruined, bloody center of the dead city. The dark gray sky was filled with thick, toxic black smoke. A massive new armed faction had taken over the ruined streets. They built tall concrete walls around the bright green portal. Hundreds of heavily armed guards aimed their rusty rifles at me. Their fat, arrogant warlord sat on a throne of crushed cars. He wore a dirty white suit and held a heavy golden shotgun. He demanded I hand over all my tower loot as a simple exit tax. I simply laughed at this completely stupid and pathetic pig. My interface showed his entire army had 0 tactical training. I pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle without any fear. The arrogant warlord ordered his weak men to shoot my head off. I activated my heavy dark mechanical suit from my spatial ring. Thick black metal plates instantly locked around my cold body. Cheap lead bullets harmlessly bounced off my thick, heavy armor. I raised my massive right arm and activated the heavy railgun. A blinding blue flash of pure hot energy destroyed their walls. Dozens of screaming guards were instantly turned into gray ash. The arrogant warlord dropped his golden gun in pure, dark terror. He fell to his dirty knees and begged me to spare his sad life. I simply stepped forward and crushed his fat body with my boot. Warlord eliminated, granting 50 bonus survival points. The remaining guards ran away like scared little gray street rats. I let my giant shadow wolf hunt them down for easy free points. I collected their dropped heavy weapons for my massive base stash. I used my heavy suit thrusters to fly back toward my safe base. The thick steel vault door opened to welcome its dark master. I walked into my warm luxury home and took off the heavy armor. I placed the new advanced shield generator on the main console, base upgrade complete, granting perfect energy protection. A bright blue energy dome covered my hidden underground facility. I cooked a massive fresh pork roast and drank cold, vintage wine. My giant wolf happily chewed on a large, bloody roasted bone. The system interface flashed with a bright red global warning. A massive wave of mutated zombies was marching toward my sector. Millions of rotting corpses formed a dark, ugly, moving ocean. They destroyed every single weak survivor camp in their dark path. I watched the brutal massacre on my glowing digital base screens. Weak fools cried and prayed to a silent god for a quick miracle. I simply smiled and loaded my heavy weapons for a massive hunt. This huge zombie horde was just a giant pile of free experience. I entered my heavy dark metal suit and locked the thick plates. My heavy suit thrusters roared as I flew out of my safe bunker. I hovered high above the huge dark ocean of rotting dead bodies. The system highlighted a giant mutated giant leading the army. Gray concrete pillars were fused into its massive, ugly, dark arms. I aimed my heavy shoulder rockets directly at its ugly, bald head. 6 explosive missiles flew down with bright, hot orange trails. The massive, fiery explosion completely shattered its thick skull. Dark black blood rained down on the screaming, mindless, dead horde. Elite Commander defeated, granting the rare item Giant Bone Core. The mindless zombies lost their direction and started wandering. I used my heavy rotary cannons and rained down hot, solid lead. Thousands of dead bodies were shredded in a brutal, bloody storm. My system level kept rising rapidly with every single bloody kill. I landed heavily on the broken street, crushing 10 weak zombies. My giant shadow wolf tore through the remaining broken enemies. We cleared the entire city block in less than 10 short minutes. A group of surviving soldiers watched me from a high broken roof. Their arrogant captain demanded I surrender my heavy metal suit. He said the army needed my rare gear to save this ruined world. I raised my heavy plasma rifle and aimed at his stupid fat face. The hot blue beam instantly vaporized his arrogant, empty head. His headless body fell off the high roof and smashed on the road. The other soldiers dropped their cheap guns and ran away crying. I ignored their escape and collected my rare monster system loot. My huge spatial ring swallowed thousands of glowing energy cores. The system showed a new hidden quest marker on my glowing map. A secret underground biolab was located beneath the ruined park. I walked to the park, crushing bones under my heavy metal boots. A massive steel hatch was hidden beneath a pile of dirty leaves. I used my heavy mechanical suit to rip the thick metal door open. A dark, cold tunnel led deep into the dangerous underground earth. I stored my heavy metal suit inside my magical spatial ring. My giant shadow wolf sniffed the dark, damp air and growled low. We walked down the dark stairs into the silent, cold underground. Flickering yellow lights illuminated a massive, dirty glass wall. Many mutated human experiments stood inside the large glass room. Green tubes fed glowing toxic liquid into their weak, pale bodies. A crazy scientist in a dirty white coat typed on a dark terminal. He saw me and laughed like a pure, insane, dark, bloody maniac. He pressed a red button to release his ugly, perfect creations. The thick glass walls shattered with a loud, terrifying crash. The pale mutants charged at me with pure, wild, unnatural speed. I pulled out my sharp tactical axe and activated my shadow step. My fast, blurry body danced through the chaotic, bloody, dark room. I severed their pale heads with pure, cold, calculated, fast swings. Dark green blood splashed across the dirty, white, cold floor. My giant wolf crushed their fragile bones with his strong jaws. The crazy scientist watched his life work turn into bloody trash. He pulled out a glowing green syringe and stabbed his own neck. His weak body rapidly expanded into a massive, ugly flesh giant. Thick, sharp bone blades grew from his massive, muscular, dark arms. The system marked him as a deadly, high-tier, mutated elite boss. I simply smiled and pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle. The ugly boss roared and swung a massive, heavy bone blade at me. I easily dodged the slow attack with my fast movement skill. The heavy bone blade smashed a thick concrete pillar into dust. My interface highlighted a glowing green core inside his chest. I aimed my cold, heavy weapon directly at the exposed weak spot. I pulled the trigger and fired a bright, hot blue plasma beam. The hot energy melted right through his thick, ugly monster chest. The massive flesh giant collapsed onto the dirty, bloody floor. Boss defeated, granting the rare item biomutation syringe. I picked up the glowing green needle with my cold, bloody hands. This rare item could instantly heal any fatal physical wound. I stored it safely inside my massive magical spatial ring. Behind the dead scientist sat a heavy locked metal safe box. My omniscient skill instantly revealed the complex secret code. I typed the green numbers and the heavy steel door swung open. Inside was a classified military map of the entire dead region. It showed the exact location of a massive hidden nuclear silo. I smiled, knowing this ultimate weapon would soon belong to me. We walked out of the dark, ruined laboratory feeling very great. This apocalypse was the best playground for a strong, smart man. I returned to my safe luxury bunker to rest for the dark night. The thick steel vault door closed with a loud, heavy metal thud. I took a hot shower to wash away the dark, dirty mutant blood. I wore soft silk clothes and drank cold, sweet, fresh fruit juice. The system pinged with a massive new global player ranking list. My dark name sat at the very top of the glowing golden board. A rich, arrogant billionaire was ranked second on the global list. He sent me a private message demanding I surrender my top rank. He offered me 10 million fake old dollars to delete my account. I simply laughed at his pathetic, stupid message and blocked him. His useless old money meant nothing in this brutal, bloody hell. I slept peacefully on my soft bed, surrounded by pure luxury. The next morning brought a dark red sky over the ruined city. A massive dark shadow blocked the bright, warm morning sunlight. I checked my external cameras to see a giant flying fortress. The arrogant billionaire arrived in his massive stolen airship. He used a loud megaphone to demand my immediate total surrender. He threatened to drop heavy bombs on my hidden underground base. My glowing interface showed his airship had a huge design flaw. The main gravity engine was completely exposed on the bottom. I stepped into my heavy metal suit and loaded my heavy railgun. The thick vault door opened, and I flew straight up into the sky. The arrogant fool laughed seeing my tiny dark suit approach him. He ordered his guards to shoot me down with their laser guns. Weak red beams harmlessly bounced off my thick, heavy armor. I aimed my heavy railgun directly at the glowing blue engine. I pulled the heavy trigger and fired a massive hot energy blast. The bright blue beam easily pierced the weak, thin metal plating. The massive anti-gravity engine exploded with a loud, fiery bang. The giant flying fortress tilted and began to fall from the sky. The arrogant billionaire screamed in terror as his ship fell. The massive airship crashed into a ruined, tall building heavily. A giant fiery explosion consumed his expensive stolen shiny toy. Elite enemy eliminated, granting the rare item Sky Lord Core. I flew down to the burning wreckage to collect my precious loot. The rich fool was crushed under a heavy piece of burning steel. He coughed up dark blood and begged me to save his sad life. He offered me all his hidden secret bank accounts for some help. I simply laughed and crushed his arrogant skull with my boot. His old money was just useless paper in this new dark world. I pulled the glowing blue core from the burning hot metal ruins. This rare item would allow my base to float in the dark sky. I flew back to my safe underground bunker, feeling satisfied. My giant shadow wolf greeted me with a happy, loud, deep bark. I placed the blue core onto my glowing digital main console. Base upgrade initiated, granting anti-gravity flight mode. The entire underground bunker shook with massive, raw, dark power. Thick concrete walls detached from the deep, dirty, dark earth. My massive luxury fortress slowly lifted into the cold, gray sky. I stood on the high metal balcony looking down at the dead city. Weak survivors stared up at my flying castle in pure, dark shock. They fell to their dirty knees and prayed to me like a god. I ignored their pathetic, loud cries and drank cold, sweet wine. This brutal, apocalyptic world belonged entirely to my dark rules. My perfect choices always kept me 10 steps ahead of everyone. The system pinged with a new mission marker across the ocean. A massive hidden continent was completely untouched by the bombs. I steered my flying fortress toward the deep, endless blue water. Thick white clouds passed by my heavy, thick glass balcony doors. My giant shadow wolf slept peacefully on a soft, expensive rug. I opened my glowing system shop to browse the rare new weapons. I had millions of golden coins from my bloody tower adventures. I purchased a massive orbital strike laser for my flying base. Weapon installed, granting pure, total aerial dominance. A dark storm slowly gathered over the deep, wild, freezing ocean. Giant mutated flying sharks jumped out of the dark, rough water. Their sharp, dirty teeth easily crushed abandoned cargo ships. A massive swarm of these ugly beasts flew toward my safe castle. I simply smiled and pressed a red button on my digital console. The heavy automated turrets locked onto their ugly wet heads. A storm of hot plasma bolts rained down on the flying beasts. Burnt chunks of dead shark meat fell back into the dark sea. The system rewarded me with endless streams of survival points. A giant kraken king suddenly burst from the deep freezing water. Its massive thick tentacles reached for my high-flying fortress. The system marked this monster as a massive world-class threat. I walked to the balcony and aimed my heavy plasma sniper rifle. The hot blue beam easily pierced its thick, wet, slimy, dark skin. The giant beast roared in pure agony and thrashed wildly around. Its heavy tentacles smashed against my bright blue energy shield. The advanced base shield held firm without a single tiny crack. I activated the new orbital strike laser from my digital console. A massive beam of pure white-hot energy shot down from the sky. The giant Kraken King was vaporized into thin gray bloody mist. World Boss defeated, granting the rare item Ocean Heart Core. A glowing blue crystal floated up from the boiling seawater. I used my psychic skill to pull the rare loot to my cold hand. This core would provide endless clean energy for my entire base. I placed the glowing crystal into the main base power reactor. My flying fortress accelerated toward the new hidden continent. We finally reached the rocky green shores of the untouched land. Thick, dense green jungles covered the entire massive landscape. My glowing interface highlighted a massive hidden ancient temple. I landed my heavy flying base in a wide, open, green, grassy field. My giant shadow wolf ran out to hunt some fresh, wild meat. I put on my dark tactical gear and loaded my heavy shotgun. The thick green jungle was filled with dangerous, toxic plants. My omniscient skill showed the safe path through the dark trees. A group of savage tribal warriors blocked my narrow dirt road. They wore bone armor and held sharp, poisoned wooden spears. Their tall, arrogant chief demanded I bow to his fake jungle god. He claimed my weapons were useless against his dark magic. I simply smiled and pulled the cold metal trigger of my shotgun. A hot explosive shell blew his arrogant head into red pieces. The remaining savages dropped their spears and ran in terror. I ignored their escape and walked toward the dark old temple. The giant stone doors were sealed with a complex bloodlock. My glowing interface instantly revealed the hidden weak point. I smashed the ancient stone lock with my heavy tactical axe. The heavy doors slowly opened, revealing a dark, cold, dusty tomb. Inside sat a massive golden throne covered in bright jewels. An ancient vampire king slept peacefully on the expensive chair. His pale white skin looked like cold, hard, smooth marble stone. The system marked him as a deadly high-tier ancient blood boss. I pulled a sharp silver stake from my dark, heavy tactical belt. I used my shadow step to teleport directly behind his throne. I drove the cold silver stake straight through his dark heart. The arrogant vampire woke up screaming in pure, terrible agony. His pale body rapidly turned into a pile of dirty gray, dry ash. Ancient boss defeated, granting the rare item, Blood Magic Tome. I absorbed the dark magic book into my growing system core. My healing speed instantly increased to a terrifying fast rate. I collected the massive pile of shiny jewels for my rich stash. This hidden continent was just another fun playground for me. I walked out of the dark temple feeling completely unstoppable. Blokchatir. The bright green jungle sun warmed my cold, heavy black armor. My giant shadow wolf waited near the heavy stone temple steps. He playfully chewed on a thick, bloody bone of a dead savage. I checked my glowing digital map for the next massive target. A bright red radar blip pulsed deep inside the dark wild woods. The system identified a massive crashed alien scout spaceship. I activated my heavy suit thrusters and flew over the trees. Thick green vines whipped at my thick, dark metal leg plates. I simply ignored the weak plants and pushed my speed higher. We reached a massive smoking crater in the deep green valley. A sleek silver metallic ship sat half buried in the dark mud. An arrogant team of elite human scavengers surrounded the hull. Their rich, greedy leader wore expensive stolen military gear. He yelled loud, stupid orders at his tired, weak, dirty workers. They were trying to cut the thick alien steel with cheap saws. My interface showed their tools would break in 10 short seconds. I landed heavily on the soft, wet dirt, crushing a small green bug. The loud thud caught the attention of the greedy scavengers. Their arrogant boss pointed his rusty laser rifle at my chest. He demanded I hand over my heavy suit and walk away quietly. I simply smiled and raised my massive, heavy right metal arm. I fired a hot blue plasma bolt right through his stupid face. His headless body dropped into the wet mud with a wet splash. The remaining cowards dropped their saws and ran away crying. My loyal giant wolf chased them down for easy, fast system points. Scavengers eliminated, granting 50 basic survival points. I walked up to the thick silver door of the crashed alien ship. My omniscient skill revealed the complex, glowing alien passcode. I pressed the smooth, cold metal panels in the exact right order. The heavy blast doors hissed open, releasing cold, white smoke. I stepped inside the dark, silent, metallic alien spaceship hall. Dead gray aliens lay on the cold, smooth, silver metal floor. Their fragile, weak bodies were torn apart by sharp claws. A massive, mutated alien beast stalked the dark control room. It looked like a giant black panther with 6 glowing red eyes. Sharp silver spikes grew from its thick, muscular, dark spine. The system marked it as a deadly, high-tier star beast boss. I pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle and took careful aim. The beast sensed my cold, killing intent and charged very fast. I fired a hot blue beam straight at its massive, ugly, dark head. The smart monster dodged the fast shot with pure, raw agility. It swung a heavy, spiked paw at my thick, dark metal chest plate. I used my shadow step to teleport behind its long, thick tail. I pulled out my sharp tactical axe and swung with brutal force. Cold, dark steel easily severed the thick tail from its body. The alien beast roared in pure, dark agony and spun around fast. I threw a heavy explosive grenade directly into its open mouth. The loud blast blew its ugly dark head into tiny bloody pieces. Starbeast defeated, granting the rare item Alien Core Crystal. I picked up the glowing purple stone with my cold bloody hands. This rare crystal would massively upgrade my flying safe base. I walked to the terminal and hacked the main central system. My interface absorbed all the advanced alien weapon blueprints. Data acquired, unlocking the advanced plasma cannon crafting. I stripped the dead ship of all its rare heavy metal plating. My massive spatial ring easily swallowed the heavy silver walls. I walked out of the empty crater feeling very rich and powerful. My giant shadow wolf happily chewed on the dead alien panther. We flew back to my floating fortress high in the cold gray sky. I placed the purple crystal into the main base power reactor. Base upgrade initiated, granting deep space travel capability. The flying castle hummed with pure, raw, unstoppable dark energy. I cooked a massive fresh beefsteak and drank cold sweet soda. The system interface suddenly flashed with a bright red warning. A second blood moon was rising over the ruined, dark, dead world. The gray clouds slowly turned into a deep, terrifying crimson red. Massive dimensional rifts tore open across the entire continent. Millions of demons poured out of the glowing, dark red portals. Weak human survivors screamed and died in pure, terrifying fear. I watched the brutal, bloody massacre on my digital base screens. A giant demon lord noticed my flying base and pointed his sword. He ordered his dark-winged army to attack my safe floating home. I simply smiled and activated my new heavy automated defenses. Alien plasma cannons emerged from the thick gray stone walls. Hot blue energy bolts rained down on the flying dark demons. Burnt chunks of dead monster flesh fell like dark, heavy rain. The arrogant demon lord roared in pure anger and flew up fast. He held a massive flaming sword filled with dark, cursed magic. My system showed his combat power was completely useless to me. I stepped onto the metal balcony wearing my heavy black suit. I raised my heavy right arm and activated the massive railgun. He swung his flaming sword at my bright blue energy shield. The weak magic blade shattered into tiny, useless, red-hot pieces. He stared at his broken weapon in pure, dark, terrifying shock. I pulled the trigger and fired a massive hot blue plasma blast. The hot energy instantly vaporized his arrogant, ugly, dark head. Demon Lord defeated, granting the rare item Abyssal Flame Core. His headless body fell out of the red sky like a heavy stone. The remaining weak demons panicked and flew back to the portal. I used my psychic skill to pull the dark core into my cold hand. This rare item would give my weapons a deadly burning effect. I walked back inside my warm luxury home and took off my armor. My giant shadow wolf happily greeted me with a loud, deep bark. I fed him a massive chunk of fresh, bloody, roasted demon meat. The system interface pinged with a new global ranking list. My dark name still sat at the very top of the glowing board. A rich guild of survivors demanded I share my base location. They claimed it was unfair for one man to hold so much power. I simply laughed at their pathetic whining and blocked them. Their weak tears meant nothing in this brutal, dark, dead world. I slept perfectly on my soft silk bed while the red moon shone. The morning brought a cold gray sky over the ruined green land. I checked my digital map for the next massive hidden vault. A bright yellow marker pointed to a deep, dark underground cave. I steered my flying fortress toward the tall, sharp mountains. We landed softly on a wide, flat gray stone near the high peak. I put on my dark tactical gear and loaded my heavy plasma rifle. My loyal wolf growled with pure excitement for the coming hunt. We walked down the steep, rocky trail toward the dark cave door. A massive iron gate blocked the dark tunnel into the deep earth. Arrogant religious cultists guarded the heavy, rusty metal lock. They wore dirty red robes and held sharp, curved, bloody knives. Their crazy leader demanded, "I offer my wolf as a dark sacrifice." He said their dark god required fresh, strong mutant wolf blood. I just smiled and pulled out my heavy, dark tactical shotgun. I fired a hot explosive shell into his ugly, loud, screaming face. His head vanished in a bright cloud of pure, hot, burning fire. The mad cultists charged at me with their cheap, rusty knives. I easily dodged their slow, weak attacks with my shadow step. My sharp, heavy axe cleanly severed their dirty arms and legs. Dark red blood pooled on the cold, gray, rocky mountain dirt. Cultists eliminated, granting 30 bonus survival points. I smashed the rusty iron lock with the heavy back of my axe. The massive gate groaned and opened into the dark, cold cave. We walked into the dark tunnel smelling old, dried, rotten blood. My glowing interface provided perfect bright green night vision. Giant mutated bats hung from the wet, rocky ceiling of the cave. They dropped down and tried to bite my thick tactical jacket. I swung my heavy axe and cut their ugly, furry bodies in half. My loyal giant wolf caught 3 flying bats in his strong jaws. We cleared the dark tunnel without taking a single tiny scratch. The cave opened into a massive underground ruined ancient city. Tall stone pillars supported the heavy, dark, rocky cave ceiling. A glowing blue river flowed through the ruined ancient streets. My system highlighted a massive golden vault in the dark center. A giant mutated blind worm guarded the heavy stone vault doors. Thick, rocky armor plates covered its massive, long, ugly body. It sensed my heavy footsteps and roared with a loud, angry sound. I pulled out my plasma sniper rifle and aimed at its open mouth. I fired a hot blue beam straight into its dark, ugly throat. The hot energy exploded inside its massive, soft, ugly stomach. The giant worm thrashed wildly and smashed a tall stone pillar. I used my shadow step to dodge the falling heavy gray rocks. I threw a high explosive grenade into the deep bleeding wound. The loud blast tore the giant monster into 2 bloody pieces. Elite Boss defeated, granting the rare item Earth Dragon Core. I collected the glowing brown stone and walked to the vault. The stone door required a massive amount of pure, raw strength. I drank a red strength potion from my massive spatial inventory. My muscles bulged with terrifying, hot-burning, unnatural power. I pushed the heavy stone doors open with a loud grinding noise. Inside the vault sat rows of pristine, ancient magical weapons. A glowing, golden armor set rested on a beautiful stone stand. Loot acquired, Emperor-class magical combat armor set. I stored the priceless ancient gear in my endless magical ring. This underground city was a massive gold mine of pure, free loot. A group of rival human explorers suddenly entered the vault. Their arrogant leader wore a shiny silver suit of heavy armor. He demanded I hand over all the ancient treasure to his guild. He claimed his father was the president of the Survivor Council. I laughed at his pathetic, stupid face and raised my heavy axe. He ordered his armed guards to shoot me with their laser rifles. I activated my fast movement skill and became a blurry shadow. I dodged their slow red beams and dashed right into their line. My sharp axe severed 3 weak heads with one brutal swing. Warm red blood sprayed across the dusty ancient stone floor. The arrogant leader fell to his knees and begged for his life. He offered me a massive seat on his stupid Survivor Council. I kicked his shiny silver chest plate with my heavy dark boot. His fragile ribs cracked loudly under my terrifying raw power. I crushed his empty, arrogant skull and looted his shiny ring. Threat eliminated, granting 50 advanced survival points. I walked out of the ancient vault, leaving their broken bodies. My giant shadow wolf happily ate the remaining bloody meat. We left the underground city and returned to the bright surface. I climbed back into my massive floating fortress and locked up. The system interface displayed a massive glowing golden timer. A global world boss was spawning in the middle of the ocean. The massive beast was a mutated leviathan with thick dark armor. Weak human armies sailed massive warships to fight the monster. They wanted the rare world core to control the ruined planet. I steered my flying castle toward the deep, freezing blue sea. I would let the weak fools soften the boss before I stole it. My floating base reached the massive storm over the dark water. Dozens of heavy gray battleships fired cannons at the beast. The giant leviathan simply ignored their weak, tiny explosions. It swung a massive dark tail and crushed a huge warship easily. Screaming sailors drowned in the freezing, dark, cold ocean waves. The fleet admiral demanded all ships fire their heavy missiles. Bright, fiery rockets flew through the dark, stormy gray sky fast. The loud explosions barely scratched the thick monster scales. The beast opened its massive mouth and fired a hot laser beam. The pure red energy instantly melted 3 heavy battleships. The arrogant admiral cried and ordered a full immediate retreat. I stood on my high metal balcony and smiled at their failure. My interface highlighted a single missing scale on its neck. I stepped into my heavy black mechanical suit and locked it. I jumped off the high balcony and fell toward the raging ocean. The heavy suit thrusters ignited with a blinding hot blue flame. I flew straight toward the giant leviathan at maximum speed. The beast saw me and tried to bite my suit with sharp, wet teeth. I easily dodged the massive jaws using my fast thruster dash. I landed heavily on the exposed pink flesh of its massive neck. I pulled a heavy tactical nuclear mine from my massive ring. I jammed the cold metal bomb deep into the soft, bleeding flesh. I activated my thrusters and flew up into the dark storm clouds. The heavy nuke detonated with a blinding, hot, pure white flash. The giant beast lost its ugly head in a massive, bloody storm. Boiling red monster blood rained down on the broken human fleet. World Boss defeated, granting the rare item Leviathan Heart. I grabbed the massive glowing blue core from the dark, cold sea. The surviving sailors cheered loudly, thinking I was their hero. The arrogant admiral sent a message demanding the rare boss loot. He said the military needed the core to rebuild their sad world. I aimed my heavy arm cannon at his massive, damaged command ship. I fired a hot blue plasma bolt right into their main ammo room. The warship exploded into a giant ball of bright, hot orange fire. The arrogant admiral died instantly in the hot, burning inferno. The other weak ships quickly turned around and fled in terror. I flew back to my high-floating fortress with my priceless loot. My giant shadow wolf licked the dark monster blood off my boots. I placed the Leviathan heart onto my glowing crafting table. Crafting successful, granting the rare item Ocean Ruler Armor. This new heavy gear would make me invincible in any deep water. I took a hot shower and drank some expensive cold vintage wine. The apocalypse was just a simple game for a prepared smart man. My perfect choices kept me far ahead of these pathetic insects. The system issued a massive global alert with a bright red light. Final dimensional tower unlocked in the ruined world center. I smiled and prepared my heavy weapons for the massive dark hunt. My flying base moved toward the massive bright golden light. Weak survivors gathered around the base of the tall magic tower. They built a dirty tent city filled with cheap rusty weapons. An alliance of rich guild leaders controlled the heavy main door. They charged a massive fee of gold coins to enter the portal. I parked my floating fortress right above their dirty, weak camp. The dark shadow of my heavy base covered their fragile alliance. The arrogant guild masters looked up at my flying base in fear. I stepped onto the metal balcony wearing my new heavy sea armor. I jumped down and landed heavily in front of the massive doors. The loud crash shattered the cold gray stone pavement into dust. Armed guards pointed their cheap laser rifles at my thick chest. Their fat, rich leader stepped forward holding a glowing sword. He demanded I pay the massive fee or leave the holy tower area. My interface showed his glowing sword was a cheap fake replica. I laughed and grabbed the thin glowing blade with my bare hand. The arrogant leader smiled, thinking his hot magic would burn me. I squeezed the cheap metal sword and shattered it into pieces. His fat, ugly face turned pale white with pure, terrifying shock. I kicked his fat stomach and sent his heavy body flying away. Fake guild master eliminated, granting 10 easy survival points. The remaining weak guards dropped their cheap guns and ran away. I walked through the massive dark tower doors without paying. My giant shadow wolf followed me, sniffing the cold, stale air. The first floor of this final tower was a massive dark maze. Weak climbers were trapped inside, fighting fake dark copies. My omniscient skill highlighted the true, safe route in the maze. A dark copy of me stepped out of a mirror with a heavy dark axe. It tried to mimic my perfect fast combat style with cold logic. I pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle and shot the glass. The hot blue beam shattered the magic glass into tiny pieces. The fake dark copy vanished into thin air with a loud, angry cry. Mirror trap destroyed, granting the rare item Illusion Core. I walked straight through the dark maze, ignoring the weak copies. My giant shadow wolf smashed every mirror on our safe route. We reached the heavy golden doors leading to the second floor. I pushed the heavy metal open and stepped into a massive arena. A giant mutated gladiator waited in the center of the dark room. He held a massive heavy iron hammer covered in dark, dried blood. The system marked him as an elite, high-tier, brutal combat boss. I simply smiled and pulled out my sharp, heavy, dark tactical axe. The giant gladiator roared and charged at me with pure, raw speed. I used my fast shadow step to dodge his massive, heavy hammer. The heavy iron weapon smashed a deep crater into the cold stone. I spun around and cut his thick ankles with my heavy, bloody axe. The massive boss roared in pain and dropped to his dirty knees. I jumped high into the dark, cold air, holding my weapon tightly. My brutal downward strike split his massive, thick, dark head. Gladiator defeated, granting the rare item Arena Champion Belt. I picked up the heavy golden belt and wore it around my waist. My physical strength stats doubled with pure, raw, massive power. This final tower was going to be an easy walk in the dark park. I walked through the glowing portal leading to the third floor. The bright light faded, revealing a massive, ancient, dark library. Tall wooden bookshelves stretched up into the dark, cold ceiling. Millions of dusty old magic books sat on the rotting brown wood. My interface highlighted a single red book glowing in the dark. An arrogant group of scholars was trying to steal the rare book. Their old rich leader wore expensive, flowing blue silk robes. He chanted a complex spell to break the heavy magical shield. I walked up behind him and tapped his weak, fragile old shoulder. He turned around and demanded I stop interrupting his holy work. I grabbed his expensive blue robe with my cold, heavy, bare hand. I easily lifted his weak old body high into the cold, dark air. He kicked his thin, weak legs and begged me to put his body down. I threw him across the massive, dark room like a cheap trash bag. His fragile bones shattered loudly against the hard stone wall. The other scholars dropped their magic staffs and ran away fast. I walked to the glowing red book and disabled the magic shield. My omniscient skill easily bypassed the complex ancient lock. Item acquired, granting the forbidden spell of pure destruction. I absorbed the dark magic knowledge directly into my cold brain. Block Pate. My glowing eyes pulsed with pure, destructive, raw, dark energy. I walked toward the glowing portal leading to the 4th floor. The bright blue light swallowed my tall, heavy, dark armor suit. I stepped into a massive, dark green, toxic, poisonous swampland. Thick yellow fog covered the dirty, wet, bubbling, muddy ground. My giant shadow wolf sniffed the toxic air and sneezed loudly. My advanced interface filtered the deadly dark poison gas easily. An arrogant guild of toxic assassins blocked the narrow road. Their skinny leader wore a dark green mask over his ugly face. He demanded I surrender my rare wolf for his dark experiments. He threw a glass vial of deadly green acid at my heavy chest. The weak liquid harmlessly washed off my thick, cold metal armor. I simply smiled and pulled out my heavy tactical dark shotgun. I fired a hot explosive shell into his skinny, weak green chest. His fragile body exploded into a massive shower of red blood. The remaining assassins dropped their cheap daggers in terror. My giant wolf tore their weak throats with his sharp, wet teeth. Assassins eliminated, granting 40 basic survival points. I collected their poison cores for my massive hidden base stash. We walked deeper into the dark, bubbling, green, toxic swamp area. A giant, mutated, poisonous toad jumped out of the dirty, dark mud. Thick purple warts covered its massive, ugly, wet, slippery back. The system marked it as a deadly, high-tier, toxic swamp boss. It opened its massive mouth and shot a thick, sticky pink tongue. I used my shadow step to teleport behind a dead, rotting tree. The heavy, wet tongue smashed the thick wooden trunk into dust. I pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle and took careful aim. I fired a hot blue beam straight into its massive, ugly red eye. The giant toad screamed in pure, terrible, loud, burning agony. I threw a heavy explosive grenade into its wide-open, wet mouth. The loud blast blew its ugly, dark head into tiny, bloody pieces. Swamp Boss defeated, granting the rare item Toxic Gland Core. I picked up the glowing purple organ with my cold, bloody hands. This rare item would give my weapons a deadly melting effect. I found a heavy golden chest hidden under the deep, dark, wet mud. I kicked the heavy lid open and smiled at the shiny, bright loot. Loot acquired, poison immunity ring, and 10 solid gold bars. I wore the shiny silver ring on my cold, heavy, dark metal finger. I walked toward the glowing portal leading to the 5th floor. The bright blue light swallowed my tall, heavy, dark armor suit. I stepped onto a massive, cold, floating stone platform up high. Fierce, freezing winds hit my thick, heavy, dark metal suit. A massive mechanical lightning bird circled the dark gray clouds. Blue electricity sparked from its sharp, heavy, cold steel wings. A weak team of archers shot it with cheap, fast wooden arrows. The weak arrows harmlessly bounced off its thick steel body. The giant bird fired a massive, bright blue lightning bolt down. The hot electricity turned the screaming archers into gray ash. Their arrogant, rich leader hid behind a thick, broken pillar. He saw my heavy armor and demanded I kill the bird for his team. He promised to pay me with useless old fake paper money later. I simply laughed and kicked his weak, fragile body off the edge. He screamed loudly as he fell into the deep, dark, endless abyss. Coward eliminated, granting 20 basic survival points. I raised my heavy right arm and activated my massive railgun. The giant mechanical bird dove toward me with pure, raw speed. I aimed the cold, dark barrel directly at its glowing blue chest. I pulled the heavy trigger and fired a massive hot energy blast. The bright blue beam easily pierced the thick, heavy steel armor. The giant bird exploded into a massive shower of hot red sparks. Skyboss defeated, granting the rare item Lightning Generator. I caught the glowing blue core before it fell off the cold edge. This rare machine would power my floating base for 10 decades. I stored the heavy metal device in my massive magical ring. The system opened a bright red portal to the final 6th floor. I walked through the magic door feeling completely unstoppable. My giant shadow wolf followed me with a happy, low, deep growl. We appeared inside a massive, dark, ruined, ancient throne room. Tall, black marble pillars supported the heavy, dark stone roof. Millions of dry, white human bones covered the cold, dirty floor. An ancient, undead king sat on a massive, dark, heavy iron throne. He wore a broken golden crown over his empty, dark, ugly skull. He held a glowing green magic staff filled with pure, dark death. The system marked him as the ultimate final Tower Master boss. He raised his glowing staff and summoned a massive bone army. Thousands of armed skeleton knights rose from the dirty floor. They charged at me, holding sharp, rusty, heavy, cold iron swords. I simply smiled and activated my heavy orbital strike laser. A massive beam of pure, white-hot energy shot down from the sky. The hot light easily melted the thick, dark stone tower ceiling. The bright laser completely vaporized the entire weak bone army. The arrogant, undead king stared at his empty room in pure shock. I used my shadow step to teleport right behind his dark throne. I pulled out my heavy tactical axe covered in bright hot plasma. My brutal, fast strike cleanly severed his ancient, ugly skull. His headless, bony body collapsed into a pile of dirty gray dust. Tower Master defeated, granting the rare item Death Crown. I picked up the heavy golden crown with my cold, bloody hands. This rare ancient item gave me total control over any dead body. I placed the cold, heavy crown inside my massive spatial ring. A massive, glowing golden chest appeared on the dark iron throne. I kicked the heavy lid open and smiled at the precious loot. Loot acquired, dimension key, and 50 solid heavy gold bars. The system announced the complete clear of the dark final tower. A bright, glowing green portal appeared in the dark, cold room. I stepped through the magic door to return to the real world. My giant shadow wolf followed me, holding a massive, heavy bone. We appeared back outside the massive, dark magic tower entrance. The dirty, weak tent city was fortified with thick, heavy walls. A massive global alliance army waited for me with heavy weapons. Their arrogant supreme commander sat in a heavy, dark metal tank. He used a loud megaphone to demand all my rare final tower loot. He claimed the world government needed my gear to save humanity. I simply laughed at his completely stupid and pathetic demands. My interface showed his massive army had zero real combat skill. I raised my heavy right arm and activated my massive railgun. The arrogant commander ordered his weak men to fire heavy guns. Hundreds of cheap shells hit my bright blue base energy shield. The weak explosions barely scratched my perfect heavy defense. I pulled the heavy trigger and fired a massive hot energy blast. The bright blue beam easily pierced the thick front tank armor. The heavy, dark metal tank exploded into a giant, hot, fiery ball. The arrogant Supreme Commander was vaporized into thin gray mist. Commander eliminated, granting 50 advanced survival points. The remaining weak soldiers dropped their cheap guns in terror. They fell to their dirty knees and begged me for simple mercy. I ignored their pathetic loud cries and called my floating base. My massive, heavy flying fortress slowly descended from the sky. The dark shadow of my base covered the entire broken tent city. I used my heavy suit thrusters to fly up to my safe balcony. My giant shadow wolf jumped high and landed on the metal floor. I walked into my warm, luxury home and took off the heavy armor. I placed the new lightning core on the main digital console. Base upgrade complete, granting infinite, clean, bright power. The entire underground bunker shook with massive, raw, dark energy. I cooked a massive fresh deer roast and drank cold vintage wine. My giant wolf happily chewed on a large, bloody roasted bone. The system interface flashed with a bright red global warning. A massive wave of mutated ice zombies marched from the north. Millions of frozen, rotting corpses formed a dark, moving ocean. They froze every single weak survivor camp in their dark path. I watched the brutal cold massacre on my glowing digital screens. Weak fools cried and prayed to a silent god for a warm fire. I simply smiled and loaded my heavy weapons for a massive hunt. This huge frozen zombie horde was a giant pile of free loot. I entered my heavy dark metal suit and locked the thick plates. My heavy suit thrusters roared as I flew out of my safe bunker. I hovered high above the huge dark ocean of frozen dead bodies. The system highlighted a giant mutated frost giant leading them. Thick blue ice crystals grew from its massive, ugly dark arms. I aimed my heavy shoulder rockets right at its ugly bald head. 6 explosive missiles flew down with bright hot orange trails. The massive fiery explosion completely shattered its cold skull. Dark freezing blood rained down on the screaming dead horde. Elite Commander defeated, granting the rare item Frost Bone Core. The mindless frozen zombies lost their direction and stood still. I used my heavy rotary cannons and rained down hot solid lead. Thousands of dead bodies were shredded in a brutal bloody storm. My system level kept rising fast with every single bloody kill. I landed heavily on the frozen street, crushing 10 weak zombies. My giant shadow wolf tore through the remaining broken enemies. We cleared the entire snowy city block in 10 short minutes. A group of surviving winter soldiers watched me from a high roof. Their arrogant captain demanded I surrender my heavy metal suit. He said the army needed my gear to survive this freezing world. I raised my heavy plasma rifle and aimed at his stupid cold face. The hot blue beam instantly vaporized his arrogant, empty head. His headless body fell off the high, snowy roof and smashed down. The other soldiers dropped their cheap, cold guns and ran away. I ignored their escape and collected my rare monster cold loot. My huge spatial ring swallowed thousands of glowing blue cores. The system showed a new hidden quest marker on my glowing map. A secret underground military vault was located under the lake. I walked to the frozen lake, crushing ice under my heavy boots. A massive steel hatch was hidden beneath a pile of dirty snow. I used my heavy mechanical suit to rip the thick, cold door open. A dark, cold tunnel led deep into the dangerous, freezing earth. I stored my heavy metal suit inside my magical spatial ring. My giant shadow wolf sniffed the dark, freezing air and growled. We walked down the dark stairs into the silent, cold underground. Flickering blue lights illuminated a massive, dirty glass wall. Many mutated super soldiers stood inside the large frozen room. Blue tubes fed glowing cold liquid into their thick, pale bodies. A crazy general in a dirty gray coat typed on a dark terminal. He saw me and laughed like a pure, insane, dark, bloody maniac. He pressed a red button to release his ugly, perfect creations. The thick glass walls shattered with a loud, terrifying crash. The pale mutants charged at me with pure, wild, unnatural speed. I pulled out my sharp tactical axe and activated my shadow step. My fast, blurry body danced through the chaotic, bloody dark room. I severed their pale heads with pure, cold, calculated swings. Dark blue blood splashed across the dirty, white, cold floor. My giant wolf crushed their fragile bones with his strong jaws. The crazy general watched his life work turn into bloody trash. He pulled out a glowing blue syringe and stabbed his own neck. His weak body rapidly expanded into a massive, ugly blue giant. Thick, sharp ice blades grew from his massive, muscular, dark arms. The system marked him as a deadly, high-tier, mutated frost boss. I simply smiled and pulled out my heavy plasma sniper rifle. The ugly boss roared and swung a massive, heavy ice blade at me. I easily dodged the slow attack with my fast movement skill. The heavy ice blade smashed a thick concrete pillar into dust. My interface highlighted a glowing blue core inside his chest. I aimed my cold, heavy weapon directly at the exposed weak spot. I pulled the trigger and fired a bright, hot blue plasma beam. The hot energy melted right through his thick, ugly, cold chest. The massive frost giant collapsed onto the dirty, bloody floor. Boss defeated, granting the rare item, Absolute Zero Freeze Core. I picked up the glowing blue stone with my cold, bloody hands. This rare item could instantly freeze any massive wild river. I stored it safely inside my massive magical spatial ring. Behind the dead general sat a heavy, locked, dark metal safe box. My omniscient skill instantly revealed the complex secret code. I typed the blue numbers, and the heavy steel door swung open. Inside was a classified military blueprint of a huge satellite. It showed the exact location of a massive hidden space facility. I smiled, knowing this ultimate weapon would soon belong to me. We walked out of the dark, ruined, freezing vault feeling great. This apocalypse was the best playground for a strong, smart man. I returned to my safe luxury bunker to rest for the dark night. The thick steel vault door closed with a loud, heavy metal thud. I took a hot shower to wash away the dark, dirty mutant blood. I wore soft silk clothes and drank cold, sweet, fresh fruit juice. The system pinged with a massive new global player ranking list. My dark name sat at the very top of the glowing golden board. A rich, arrogant space CEO was ranked second on the global list. He sent me a private message demanding I surrender my top rank. He offered me 10 million fake coins to delete my user account. I simply laughed at his pathetic, stupid message and blocked him. His useless fake money meant nothing in this brutal, bloody hell. I slept peacefully on my soft bed, surrounded by pure luxury. The next morning brought a clear blue sky over the ruined city. A massive dark shadow blocked the bright, warm morning sunlight. I checked my external cameras to see a giant flying dreadnought. The arrogant space CEO arrived in his massive stolen starship. He used a loud megaphone to demand my immediate total surrender. He threatened to drop heavy bombs on my hidden floating base. My glowing interface showed his starship had a huge design flaw. The main plasma engine was totally exposed on the flat bottom. I stepped into my heavy metal suit and loaded my heavy railgun. The thick vault door opened, and I flew straight up into the sky. The arrogant fool laughed, seeing my tiny dark suit approach him. He ordered his guards to shoot me down with their laser cannons. Weak red